Hello, everybody. This is going to be a quick video walkthrough of the second part of Notes 4.3. So you should find your Unit 4 notes packets, flip to Notes 4.3 that looks like this. This is going to be dealing with the political reforms during the Progressive Era. So you'll have to flip your page to the back where it starts with the main issue is political corruption. So take the time, make sure that you're in the right spot, and we are going to get into how the Progressive Era tackled these issues caused by government corruption. So when we're talking about political, we're talking about government, okay? Government reform. So things going on with our lawmakers, right? Our mayors, the people that are supposed to be protecting our rights. There is corruption during this time period. So we're going to identify reforms intended to address that. Because there was a lot of corruption during this time period. Corruption is, right, abusing power for your own gain. Okay, so that's what we're going to take a look at. So during the Progressive Era, because the government was so hands-off, right, laissez-faire with businesses, right, with cities and building codes, it also is the same way with how the government itself was working. And this led to the government protecting the rich and not necessarily the working class or common person. So when we say corruption, right, that's referring to those in the government working to maintain their power, right, by whatever means necessary. And at the local level specifically is where we have a problem. We start to see political bosses or party bosses, or sometimes also known as political machines, develop. Cincinnati even had one, and we'll take a look at this in your assignment. But these were politicians, advisors that got people to vote specifically for a candidate, and they would do so by giving out favors, bribes, and jobs, right? They would try and encourage people, hint, hint, right, to vote for a particular person in order to get favors, to get privileges, or sometimes even they would intimidate voters, right? If you don't vote for this person, right, something bad will happen to you. And that's a problem because you need to make sure that in democracy, right, where the people are the ones in charge that we've talked about, right, they feel free to make their own choices. So you have these political bosses, political machines kind of running the show, which is leading to government not helping the average person. Instead, it's helping those still in power. So here's just some ways that political bosses would earn votes, right? Tactics that they would use that were corrupt. Favors. So for example, one of these party bosses could drop off a liquor license for the bar that you've been trying to open downtown. He paid your bail when you were arrested last week and got your charges dropped. So yes, this is the time period where we just talked about prohibition, right? Alcohol has been banned throughout the country with the 18th Amendment. So, well, look at that. He's done a favor for you, right? He knows you want to open up this bar downtown. He's going to look the other way. He's going to pay your bail, right? Look, you did something nice for me. Do something nice for me in return, right? Vote for me in the upcoming election. Bribes. He promised to hire your company to landscape the courthouse and the park and pay you double what you asked, right? So do this for me and I'll give you other resources, right? I'll give you extra money. Jobs were often given out in exchange. So he would promise to maybe appoint you as senator once he became mayor. So, if you vote for me, I will return the favor once I'm in office and give you a job that gives you power. And then just good old intimidation, right? He has his goons, his squad, his bodyguards stand over your shoulder as you voted, making sure that you are standing there voting for the person that you are supposed to be. At the national level, there was also corruption as well. This is going to also be addressed by some reforms. The Constitution, our governing document, gave state legislatures or the state governments the power to choose our senators. Senators are a part of the government who make our laws, right? They're a part of that Congress that we've talked about. This was the same thing in that cartoon we looked at where the monopolies were money bags, right? Bags of money with all the power. So people were not choosing these elected representatives. Instead, corporations, businesses, these monopolies were often bribing state governments to elect choosing who they wanted and preferred for the Senate. So it almost kind of was like this situation where if you maybe drop off some money as a bribe, then you've got a ticket into the Senate to become a state legislature, to become a senator. Now, this is going to result in a couple different things. Number one, the biggest, is that the government is not going to be representative of the people, right? It's going to be representative of the corporations, the businesses, the people in power. And this makes it not very democratic. It's also going to lead to ineffective government. If you're hiring or appointing people to power because they did you a favor, they did you a solid, that's not going to necessarily give you qualified people who know what they're doing, right? That's the point of an election process, is to give the people a voice and to make sure that those who know their stuff are actually in power. And on top of that, it's just criminal, right? It's fraud, it's extortion, it's assault, right? So it's leading to criminal activity as well. So how are we going to fix this process? Again, this is now more hands-on, right? We're moving away from government kind of letting things run its course. We're going to actually take steps in reforms to fix this corruption and make it more democratic, give the people more of a voice. So the first thing is the 17th Amendment. The 17th Amendment to the Constitution has the direct election of senators by the people. So state governments are no longer choosing those and accepting bribes. It's now the people, giving citizens a greater say and making sure officials are following what the people want, the will of the people, not those corporations, businesses, monopolies. And we're also going to see the secret ballot as well be implemented, right? So this is just having privacy at the ballot box. A ballot is what you cast when you vote, right? So privacy, making sure that no one's watching you when you're voting, right? Setting up the little cubbies. If you look over in the corner of my room, right, I have one of those makeshift voter boxes, right? There's, it's there. So that way no one can look at what you're putting on your paper. When you go and scan your item, it's very private as well. So this ensures that people can cast votes without, those bosses, those party bosses or political machines knowing how they voted, right? The goal is to lessen or limit the intimidation and pressure on voters. Other reforms that are going to make the process more democratic and give it more power to the people, the direct primary. So this is an election where the people, voters, are selecting which candidates they want to run for office versus the party bosses that are choosing those people. So this occurs before election day. This is an election before an election. I know that's kind of weird, but the people are able to say, this is who I want to run for the spot versus it being just chosen for them. Initiatives. If you initiate, you are starting something, right? If you take initiative or something is initiated, it's started. So an initiative in this context is what allows voters, especially at the state and local level, to directly introduce bills or ideas to be made into laws in the state government, right? We can collect signatures and propose that to the actual government itself to be made into law. So this is the citizens initiating or starting the law process in that sense. There is a referendum. Okay? A referendum allows voters to decide if a bill or a proposed amendment should be passed at the state or local level. So if you just break down this word referendum, there's this word refer, right? If I refer to something, I'm gesturing to it. I'm saying, oh, it's this. I'm going to refer to someone, right? I'm going to say, oh, I'm speaking about them. This referendum is allowing the state and local government to say, hey, we're going to listen to the voters. I'm referring to the voters in how this is going to go. So they're going to say, voters, do you want this law? Do you want this amendment to be added? Yes or no. And voters will decide that on election day. And then finally, a recall. A recall is another type of election, but this time it's not actually for a law. This is should a person in office in the government at the state and local level, should they be removed from office? Should they stay or should they be replaced, right? So this allows for if there is somebody, right, let's say in Cincinnati on city council who's not doing their job appropriately, they're taking the rights away and not listening to the will of the people, the citizens could have this recall election and have them removed from office and replaced. Okay. All right. So that is it. I just wanted to make sure that we were not interrupted too much by the 9th grade vision and hearing. So make sure that you have all these blanks. Make sure that you have answered all of the questions in the Edpuzzle. And if you have any questions whatsoever, you know where to find me. I get paid to help you. So have a wonderful, fabulous day.